Top 5 best decks for the KC Cup. Starting off with number 5, we have Altergeist. Now, there were several different decks that I could have put into this final spot, but Altergeist have been doing really well in tournaments lately. It's been on the rise, being one of the new decks out of the most recent box, and I think as players continue to optimize this deck, it's only going to get better. We have a lot of things going for it. Number 1, we have a lot of great main deck monsters here. Things like the Meluseek, which can deal with our opponent's monster or opponent's cards really well. We also have the monster, the level 2 one that lets us bounce our opponent's cards during their turn. Super annoying to deal with. Plus, we have room for a lot of trap cards here in this deck. A lot of the decks' format are running a lot of traps. It's a very trap heavy format, and Altergeist are one of the best trap decks in the game. That even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh and modern like Master Duel and all in the modern TCG, this deck is one of the best trap decks out there. So I expect to continue to do well in this format. We also have a lot of good extra deck monsters between our Altergeist monster, our Ningirsu, as well as the Borolo Dragon. So Altergeist has a lot of good things going for it. I think it's only going to continue to get better, and I expect it to have several spots in the top 100 of this KC Cup. Next up, we have Evil Twins. Now, this deck is also a new deck out of the most recent box, and it's been doing really well in tournaments lately. It has another small engine in terms of the fact that we only have 6 monsters here, like 6 Live Twin monsters here, and then the Live Twin home. So 7 starters in our deck, and then 13 trap or interruption cards to deal with our opponent's monsters. That is a ton of ways to deal with our opponent's cards. Plus, the Live Twins can also blow up your opponent's monsters during their turn. It's not at all unlikely to have 5 interruptions for your opponent, to have like 3 back row, a Veiler in hand, plus your Evil Twin on the board ready to destroy a card on your opponent's field. That can be very difficult to deal with. So Live Twins, no surprise to see that they've been doing really well out of the most recent box, given the trap heavy format that we're in. I do think this deck does suffer from a couple of issues though. Number 1, we don't have a lot of versatility in our extra deck. It's just the 6 Live Twin monsters and then Nightmare Unicorn, and that's it. We don't have a lot of other options here because of the restrictions on Evil Twins. Also, this deck is a little bit slower to win games. Similar to Altergeist, it does take usually a couple turns because you don't have like a lot of way to kill your opponents in one turn. In fact, in this deck, we're not using the 4,000 monster that Live Twins has in their deck at all. It's not present in this particular deck list, but they take a little bit longer to win games, and we know in the KC Cup that you are rewarded for playing more games. It's just the way that the scoring system works, so that will maybe hold these decks back a little bit, but I expect to see them quite a bit on day 3 anyways. Next up, we have the Tenyi deck. As I said, it's a very trap-heavy dependent format, and Tenyis are one of the decks that can play through back row very easily. They, of course, have all these different graveyard effects that allow them to continue to do things, continue to gain advantage, summon things, and do other effects. And I expect that having that, as well as the other spell cards at their disposal, things like the Heavenly Dragon Circle, which can let them dodge effects, so to speak, and let them search their deck for more Tenyi monsters while getting the graveyard effects active. I expect that this deck will do really well in this KC Cup just because of that fact. They're one of the only decks that can really play through a ton of different back row cards. And again, there's a lot of different back row decks this format, so I expect them to definitely have a presence here in the KC Cup in the top 100 and to take several spots in that top 100 just because of that. Next up, we have Rockets, another deck that can deal with back row because of their ability to dodge back row, so to speak. We have the Rokket Tracer, of course, which can chain to it your opponent's trap cards, blow up a rocket monster to summon another one from the deck, and then you get to summon one in the end phase. And the fact that they have that destruction end phase summon effect is also just really good for them to be able to float and survive with all the back row cards that are running around this format. Speaking of back row cards, they have plenty of their own that they're able to run. I mean, they're not their own in terms of their own archetype cards, but they have rooms for generic back row cards, as well as Needle Sealing, one of the only decks in the format that can really run this card right now. They also have a lot of versatility in their extra deck. They can run rank 4 monsters, and of course the rank 4 engine is really deep at this point in the game. Tons of different powerful ones you can run at this point. We also have access to level 8 synchro monsters, and there's a lot of really good level 8 synchro monsters in the game too. So I fully expect this deck to take several spots in the top 100. Tenyi, Rockets, as well as the number 1 deck on this list, have been doing really well in tournaments, and they are definitely the best 3 decks of the format, and I expect that to be the case in the KC Cup. Speaking of the number 1 deck, let's go ahead and get to it. It's Blackluster Soldier. No surprise here, this deck has been doing really well in tournaments, dominating them. Not quite tier 0, but definitely the best deck of the format. We have a really powerful skill, which gives us multiple +1s, free ritual monsters, free ritual spell cards, free extra ritual spells in the graveyard to summon our monsters from hand. We have a really powerful OTK monster in the Envoy of the Beginning, very easily able to deal 4,000 damage. We mentioned that winning games quickly as possible is beneficial in the KC Cup because of its scoring system, and BLS is one of the best things for that. We also have room for plenty of trap cards here. 10 cards, half of our deck in this list is just back row or interruption to deal with our opponent. Plus we have a draw engine in this deck in the Endymion and the Magistus engine here that can not only draw cards but also do a couple of other things for us as well with the Magistus effects. So really cool deck. I mean, no surprise to see this is number one. I expect it to do really well in the KC Cup and to be the most popular, or at least the most common deck in the top 100 and the most successful deck and the best deck of the format right now. So tell me what you guys think of the list. We'll be doing the top 5 budget decks next as well. If you guys liked the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you guys so much for the support, and you guys have a wonderful rest of the day.